What if I told you that everything people admire about you, you built for just one reason, so that no one could ever hurt you again? Your competence, your independence, that calm, unreadable surface you wear so well. It looks like strength, and some of it is, but underneath, almost none of it began as strength. It began as defense. Somewhere very early, a part of you decided that needing people was too dangerous, and it started to build, and you have been living inside what it built ever since. Most minds do not work this way. Yours does. You live a step ahead of the room, reading the tone before the words arrive, sensing where things are going long before they get there, watching from a quiet distance, even in the moments you are most involved. This is the introverted intuitive mind, the deep mind, the one that feels strangely like an observer, even inside its own life. And if that mind is yours, you are most likely one of two kinds of people: the one who reads the emotional current beneath everything, or the one who reads the hidden structure beneath everything. Different surfaces, but the same machinery turning underneath. For most of you, that means the INFJ or the INTJ. People praise it. They call you perceptive, composed, self-sufficient, the one who always has it handled. They lean on you and almost never think to ask whether you are all right, because you have never once given them a reason to. But you know something they do not. All of it is standing on a wall, and somewhere beneath the pride, you know that you are the one who built it. This is about that wall, where it came from, what it protects, and the quiet price you have been paying for years to keep it standing. Some lives are built from desire, others are built from defense. From the outside, the two can look identical. Both contain discipline, ambition, order, control. Both look deliberate, but one is organized around moving toward life, and the other is quietly organized around making sure life can never wound you in the same place twice. You may call yours independence. You may say you simply prefer to handle things yourself. You may call it maturity, or high standards, or privacy, and some of that is true. But underneath those words, another structure is running. And if you are one of these two types, you already know its logic by heart. Needing people creates exposure. Trusting them creates uncertainty. And showing what you feel hands someone access to a part of you they might neglect, misread, or one day use against you. So you adapted. You became competent, because competence reduced the number of people you had to depend on. You became observant, because watching people closely let you detect disappointment before it arrived. And you became controlled, because control kept anyone from seeing how deeply things actually reach you. At first, these were things you did. Over time, they stopped feeling like defenses at all. They started to feel like who you are. Competence is the perfect hiding place because it never looks like fear. It looks like strength. You solve problems before anyone notices them. You anticipate the consequences 3 moves out. You carry the weight. You manage the crisis. You make yourself useful. People admire your reliability, and not one of them sees the quiet dread that sometimes keeps it running. Because for you, understanding is safety. If you can just know enough, prepare enough, stay far enough ahead, then maybe nothing will ever catch you helpless again. You will never have to wait for someone to rescue you. You will never have to feel the specific humiliation of asking for help and watching no one come. But competence turns into a cage the moment it becomes the only thing that lets you feel safe. Rest starts to feel irresponsible. Confusion feels like weakness. Being helped can feel more threatening than being exhausted, so you carry it alone. Because carrying it alone protects the belief that you are still in control. Your competence is real, it is valuable, and it was hard-won. The trap is not that you became capable. The trap is when capable becomes the only condition under which you believe you are allowed to be loved, because then every failure is not just a failure. It threatens the entire identity that has kept you from ever feeling powerless again. There is a healthy independence that lets two people stand beside each other without swallowing one another whole. And then there is the kind you built, which is not really independence at all. It is a closed system. It does not just say, "I can survive on my own." It says something much colder underneath. It says, "I will never let myself need anyone so much that their absence could destroy me." That kind of independence almost always grows out of a moment when depending on someone hurt. Maybe your needs were treated as an inconvenience. Maybe love showed up only when you performed correctly. Maybe the people around you genuinely cared, but they were too overwhelmed or too limited to ever actually see what you needed. So you learned to need less, at least where anyone could see it. You turned longing into self-sufficiency. You stopped asking, because asking meant risking a no. You started leaving before anyone could leave you first, and a part of you is even proud of it. Proud that nobody holds anything over you. But the person who needs nothing is also almost impossible to reach. So you enter relationships with your real self kept somewhere else. You give affection, loyalty, advice, time, attention. You give everything except the one thing that would actually make you vulnerable. You will love someone, but you will not let their presence become necessary. You open the door. You just never let them near the foundation. Now here is the part that is written for you specifically, because this is the move that defines these two types more than any other. You confuse emotional control with emotional health. They are not the same thing. Health is being able to feel something, name it, let it out in proportion, and come back down. Control is different. Control is refusing to feel a thing until it grows too big to manage, and then translating it into something that sounds more acceptable. So instead of saying, "That hurt me," you explain very precisely why the situation was unacceptable. Instead of saying, "I am scared you are going to leave," you analyze the other person's inconsistencies. Instead of saying, "I need you to reassure me," you start questioning whether the relationship is even logically sustainable. The feeling does not go anywhere. It just gets converted into judgment, into theory, into certainty, into distance. And this is exactly why you can look your calmest at the precise moment you are most activated. Your face goes still. Your voice gets clean and precise. You stop asking questions because you have quietly decided you already know what it all means. In that moment, your control is not healing the wound. It is sealing the room around it. People who were hurt early become extraordinary readers of danger. You notice the shift in tone, the pause before a reply, the change in attention, the small contradiction, the tiny failure of consideration. And often you are right. That is what makes this so hard to question. The problem is never that you see too much. The problem is when seeing fuses with predicting. A slow reply becomes the first sign of abandonment. One distracted evening becomes proof the love is fading. A single disagreement becomes evidence of some deep, permanent incompatibility. Your mind does not just read what happened. It finishes the entire story before reality has had a chance to say a word. And there is relief in that, real relief. Once you have decided what it means, the not knowing disappears. You do not have to wait or ask or risk hearing an answer that could hurt. You can move first. You can withdraw with your dignity intact and tell yourself you simply saw the pattern before anyone else did. Sometimes you will be right, but being right about some dangers can quietly convince you that your vigilance is always wisdom. So you protect yourself from betrayal, and in the same motion, you make repair impossible. You escape the relationships that were genuinely harmful, and then you use that same emergency exit on the ones that only became difficult. And here is where it becomes truly hard to see, because at some point, These strategies stop being things you do and become things you believe you are. You are not just acting independently. You are an independent person. You are not just controlling your emotions. You are the rational one. You are not avoiding vulnerability. You are private, selective, deep, hard to understand. Once it becomes identity, questioning the defense feels like questioning your entire self. If competence is who you are, then accepting help feels like sliding backward. If independence is who you are, then real attachment feels like a betrayal of yourself. If control is who you are, then simply grieving out loud can feel like total collapse. And so the wound stops repeating through the same situations and starts repeating through the roles you keep choosing. You are always the composed one, the one who understands everyone and is understood by no one, the one who leaves first. The details change from person to person, but the architecture underneath never gets touched. A life like this can be impressive. You can build a career people respect. You can be careful, stable, far more together than the people who first taught you that closeness was dangerous. But underneath all of it, your nervous system is often still living, as though one unplanned moment could drop you straight back into helplessness. That is why spontaneity feels unsafe. Intimacy cannot be scheduled. Love cannot be guaranteed. The other person stays a separate being, with their own moods and failures and limits that you will never fully control. And to truly let someone in is to accept that you can no longer eliminate the chance of being disappointed. You can lower the risk, you can choose carefully, set boundaries, walk away from what keeps hurting you, but no amount of intelligence turns closeness into certainty. And if certainty is your condition for letting someone in, then no one will ever pass the test. That is the real cost. Your defenses protect you from the sharpest pain, yes, but they also protect you from ever being changed by love. Nothing gets in deep enough to break you, but nothing gets in deep enough to feed you either. So, what do you actually do with this? You do not tear the whole thing down. Healing is not becoming helpless, or careless, or open to everyone who walks through the door. It is not abandoning your competence, or tolerating disrespect, or trusting people who have not earned it. The work is quieter than that. It is learning which of these walls are still keeping you safe, and which ones have simply become the prison. And it starts by catching the exact moment the wall goes up. The next time you feel hurt, notice. Do you get more curious or more certain? Do you say what happened, or do you silently reach a verdict? Do you ask for what you need, or do you test whether they can guess it? Do you set a boundary, or do you just disappear? Then you practice the things that will feel almost embarrassingly small, saying, "That mattered to me," admitting, "I do not actually know what you meant by that," asking, out loud, "Can you reassure me?" Letting someone help you before you have hit the point of collapse. Staying inside one hard conversation long enough to find out whether repair was possible all along. These will feel more dangerous than any dramatic confession, and now you understand why. They let another person affect you while you are still standing there. They trade control for something you have avoided your whole life, which is simply being present for it. Your defenses were not a mistake. Nobody becomes this competent, this independent, this controlled for no reason. These were the things that carried you through a time when you genuinely had no safer option. But a strategy that saves you in one chapter can quietly trap you in the next. The competence that protected you can become an inability to receive. The independence can harden into isolation. The sharp perception can curdle into suspicion. And the emotional control can slowly become emotional absence. The life you built is real, and it is impressive, and it is yours. But a home was never meant to be only a place where nothing can get in. It is also supposed to be a place where something can finally be welcomed. So at some point, the The question stops being whether you can survive without ever being held. You already proved that. You won that a long time ago. The braver question, the one still waiting for you, is whether you are willing to build a life where being held no longer feels like the beginning of danger.